So, after setting up a pie hole, there is a black hole discussion by Sabine Hassenfelder, which is cool. I like a lot of the stuff she does. But at the same time, it's like there was one thing that irked me when it came down to how it is that gravity is described around a black hole, which effectively pushed it into this realm of it breaks conservation of information, which I have a problem with. So it's like, no, it's described as it's just a curvature of space and time. And I'm like, yeah, no, except that information has to exist there somehow and has to remain existing. How does it do that? My theory, of course, is always like a lot of other people's. Well, there's a quantum tunnel for information, and ultimately that relates to a consistent increase of curvature of space and time. You know, as the gravitons tried to. There's this freaking random mustache stuff. Anyways, but yeah, no, basically that's what it is. But instead of Hawking radiation, because obviously that wouldn't create space-time curvature, dumbasses, it would be space-time curvature as an actual, energy force or something, whatever that is. A continuation and a given informational constant. That kind of thing. However, there is no evidence for this. Not a bit. There's nothing. We've never done a single solitary quantum any experiment that equals this existence. Which is the problem. So it's like, well, we just currently describe it as this. Go fuck yourself. I know that that's not true. There's no way. I don't care. There's obviously information that has to exchange. There's clearly something that has to happen. I don't care. Something has to be there. It doesn't matter what you think. I don't care. I don't care what your current descriptors are. The answer is wrong. What you have as your answer is wrong. And I know that's going to get me a lot of flack. But the fact of the matter is, obviously something must be going on for information to continue as having curvature of space and time existing where it is. It didn't change just because gravity won out and we got a black hole, man. Which then turns it into, we don't know how gravitons get out. Maybe they're not affected by gravity. Okay? They're super fluid to gravity, I guess. Fuck off. There's no friction. There's no information. There's no nothing. Go away! Oh, okay. Gravitons do this now, huh? Where's these results? Where are my orders of magnitude of certainty? Why? Yeah, stupid things that a lot of physicists argue about behind the scenes. Those things. There must be a way that this is going on! We need experiments! Right? Oh, there are none, though, right now. So, unfortunately, we're kind of fucked describing it. So we're like, Einstein currently has the record for this one, but at the same time, there's no fucking way. Okay, fucking, it's gonna be a modification of some kind that bridges our gaps here. It's just gonna be a thing, we know that. But I then posit this, because if it's an energy barrier that is the horizon, event horizon, right, that happens to cause a quantum tunnel event, then of course what we're talking about is that information is transferred, and we're seeing a constant space-time quantum tunnel effect, right? Which is perfect. That means gravitons never escaped. But that means gravitons did technically get to the point of wherever that event horizon is. But, of course, we have no evidence for that. Except for the fact that black holes exist. So, potato after a while. Not to mention, you would feel nothing as you get closer to the event horizon. Bullshit! Bullshit, there's light that's trapped there. It's just spinning really fast and not leaving its angle. And you know that. I don't like that. I don't like that you described it like that. I know it's a very good explanation for layman's terms, but no. No, we know that light's there. We know that for a fact, even if it's not curving ever towards us and getting out. Okay? And while something might come in and then ultimately alter its trajectory and sacrifice that as a kind of gravitational, like, yeeting, I guess, which is, not really what that is, but effectively it's like that. And then we get the information back out because it's going to be, of course, converted back into quantum information wave functions that are extraordinarily elongated here, right? And a very, very, for its view of events, still traveling the same speed, but for outside, everything else is going quite a bit faster, and we don't know what the fuck's going on. And it seems like it's, we just slowed down to it, standard relativity stuff, basically, but the problem is that means, like, light hits you like a gamma ray the closer you get to it, to a gravitational black hole event horizon. And it's just like a normal, like, thought that normally anyone that thinks about it for long enough has. Like, obviously there's gonna be particles that are, like, trapped in a very close dance to death orbit that just goes on for a very long time. And then same thing with light. Right, but then that doesn't change the fact that it's like, and yet I got murdered before I even got to it by just gamma rays and fucking particles that will never escape and we'll never see them. But, like, time slowed down and I got to see them for once. So I'm angling. I mean, because they're technically in layers here, so they're always going to go all the different directions that exist. You know what I mean? Which is disturbing in a way. Right, because they're, like, effectively the worst pasta layers you could ever imagine, or lasagna layers of, like, gamma rays turned into, like, this is solid light! My ass, it's solid! How did it become solid? What? Solid? Well, yeah, no, but we're talking about, why. The wave functions all blend together. I don't like, but it's true though. They'll be fucking elongated and compressed to the point where, like, we're talking about a bunch of constructive interference, and to the point where light and matter start blending together. So but still disturbing thought, because it's like it's the most solidest of solid things, and it's like, and yet inside it's even more solid. Except it's always heading deeper and deeper and straighter, which is the whole other side of gravity, and how they describe their quantum physics for gravity on that side. But that's elongation, of a wave function. So it went in redshifted. It's given space-time matter wave function over a given distance. Instead of ripping itself apart, it becomes more elongated until it eventually starts tunneling as energy barriers start showing up. These are vacuum barriers, right? Kind of like how we are accelerating thanks to quantum vacuum pressure, right? Similar situation in this sense, but, like, it's always heading closer and closer and closer to a finite point. Of course, then they all start blending in, and then that causes that all, spinny, doohickey conservation momenta thing and information stuff. Which then turns it into, no, there must be, and no, because we said it was this, and it has, like, this other parallel world. I don't care, Veritasium. I don't care. Alright, like, the fact of the matter is, we're getting closer and closer to the finite point of what the constituent reality of everything around us is. Time starts to change into space. What makes space is what we're doing already by elongating wave functions, right? And that's an entropedic value. Okay? Although it doesn't sound like it, but that's what that is. Anyways, moving on, then if you want to get even further into that, then you end up getting into this other finite point of what the fuck was the Big Bang made out of? Right? Like, that material, what the fuck is that? Well, we're making that in a lot of ways, basically. Right? Like, it's a compressed version of all the different fucking types of forces and energies trying to combine. Now, they're all not wave functioning constructively well enough, and so entropedically it always tries to go to its lowest, least resistive part to play in all of that, right? Well, that also means things slow down as it drops energy to do that. So it becomes, to us, in our view of events, like it's colder and it's slower, right? Information slows down. Basic quantum stuff, quantum relativity. Quantum gravity stuff, right? But we're going to move on because those are theoretical physics. you have to get into quantum field theory to get there. Standard stuff. But you want to get further from that, then we get into the really cool stuff. That's what my stuff is, at least, because nobody has any fucking information past that point. So I was like, well, what if that was the membrane they keep going on about? And then there's fields there, since they're small enough, right? And then we're talking about an energy barrier and allows for it to tunnel. And because it's so tightly controlled and very denoised at that point, then we're getting into special stuff. We're getting into teleportation and tunneling occurring into the membrane and past it. Cool stuff. We never actually went backwards in time. Still saves that problem. So no problem there. Instead of it switching, space-time turns into a different space. But it's not a separate universe, because that's not what that is. This is potential land. Something I've described already on my playlist. The Black Hole, Into the Black Hole playlist that's on my YouTube channel. So, but as for what it's worth, nobody really actually knows. The math that they have don't ever really seem to bring in quantum physics, which is a problem. They just expand space, which is like, yeah, well, obviously, but like, special relativity wise here, as we're accelerating and clumped together as the way we are, we happen to experience everything as per usually normally, right? The standard rule of thumb of one thing's traveling the same speed as you, and you interact as if nothing's changed, and you're not actually accelerating as fast as you are. Standard shit. So their wave functions for their relative view of each other are as nominal, normal, right? It's only when you get to really small stuff that you get to, oh, fucking poop. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Things have become far more interactive for those weakly things than before. And many other subatomic things and wave functions are blending together into a bunch of shit that we don't usually view them as. This is becoming far more counterintuitively special spooky stuff. The standard, right? However, the problem is we don't see any quantum fucking nothing like this! Yeah! And the answer is like, we don't see anything that says that your shit's right, for what it's worth. Like, go ahead and tell me all about how that fucking doesn't have anything other than a curvature of space and time. Yeah, let me just go through that one. Let me just... is it there? Where is it? It's everywhere. Oh, is it? Is it? Yeah, no. Where's that information going through? Well, space and time. And space and time is just resonating. It's continuous curvature of space and time. It's just never-ending. It's just infinitely perpetual. It started and therefore. So why did it stop once it got to smaller stuff? I can't. I can't. It just does. Oh, okay. Maybe it's the quantum decoherence now. It's the information stuff. It's gotta be this now. It decoherent it out. There's no gravity now. You're next to a ginormous bunch of gravity. It overwhelms your signal. What are you on about? Obviously, no. Clearly, you wouldn't be able to define that very easily in a massive gravitational field like we are. Are you insane? It's not going to be easily filtered out. You literally can't do it. Do you get that problem? Because you have to measure all of these other things. By the way, you have the magma, the mantle, the spinning of tectonic plates. You have all the rest of it around all of our astronomical stuff. Meaning the sun, the other planets, other stars, and their planets, and more. Which then turns it into, good fucking luck, bitch. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, you're gonna go measure all of these. You're gonna know before they even appear here. Well, fuck you. When you get there, let me know. Clearly. However, I want to do this at the end because you unlikely got to this point Just an FYI. And if you did, awesome. Okay? Positively charged particles are known as protons, right? And they have a balancer of gluons with neutrons, okay? And a electron, as it orbits in its field, happens to create a given gap as it tunnels, right? To where ultimately, as its field of influence blooms, from where that negatively charged information happened to form in its orbit, all right? Now, that negatively charged bloom, of course, then radiates throughout and combines with other positively charged and negatively charged blooms of fields, okay? We're not done yet, though. There exists within that tunnel all of a sudden I'm moving as I'm amassed, and now I have an energy barrier, right? An area in which I'm going into, as the continuation of my kinetic has still occurred as the electron subatomic particle I am, as it also spins. As it decays its spin and goes into a energy barrier that squishes and is already, oscillating and resonating and doing all of its little vibrating things around its orbit, okay, there exists a finite brief period of time as to where a positively charged field can fit into. It then immediately tunnels, thanks to the energy barrier, breaking its information, quantumly speaking, of the electron down, and then tunnels it into the positively charged field area it could only ever exist into, making it travel faster than the speed of light to get to there, as it collapses using the very energy of the negatively charged area it happened to be in briefly. Then it collapsed into being in the only positively charged space it could have been in, right? In so doing, it removed a decent amount of the negative charge field. Now, that field, of course, dropped relative to the kinetic mass and the potential energy and all the information necessary for it to be that electron right there at that point, exactingly p-value levels of existence, of certainty. Do you get why? Do you get why I go like, well, are you sure the tunnels aren't there? Are you sure I can't break Heisenberg? I can make Heisenberg understand he was wrong. Cream always rises to the top. Do you get it? Because, like, the cream it's technically less dense and it's a charge variable. Anyways, the point is, kinetic is what's being sacrificed because, of course, it was already moving as fast as it was, right? And so, like, that value then got sacrificed. Now, it's always traveling quite quickly. And, of course, it has the fact that, like, all of that field just, and it gets real close. And it's like, I'm right here. Boom. And it has to do something, right? So there's never a perfect, kind of like the Big Bang. So it's a big, not a, well, it could be a sphere or flat, I don't care. Point is, it's not perfectly that, right? Whatever shape it is. So, as a result, that means, and it goes off and does whatever the hell else it does, right? Now, how do you think multiple fucking orbits work like this? Well, that's a resonance. That's a harmonic resonance, right? But it's also, this is how many actual positively charged gaps I can fit in, right? These are the electron gaps, but now they're proton gaps, but otherwise known as proton positively charged field gaps. In the quantum wave functions, they exist around attracting those naughty negatively charged things called electrons. They attract somehow. They don't cancel each other out? Oh no, I'm so sorry. That's oppositely charged wave functions that are vibrating correctly for that. Very odd. Aren't they oppositely, like, wouldn't they? No. See, that's the thing, though. You know, you end up having to deal with a area of effect, three-dimensional figure that's moving around all the time. So, obviously, it doesn't quite work perfectly, and then you get areas where the thing used to be and where it's more likely to be, and then also where it could possibly, but not really ever going to be, because these are, technically speaking, just ghostlies of where it used to be still having that amount of energy. The energy, of course, was sacrificed. You get it, because it's a storage of the information that then collapses to one of the other ones that exists going on. that standard malarkey business of, yeah, no, nothing's perfect, and the conversion created some yuckies that weren't perfectly these things. Standard bullshit, malarkey, in the world of quantum physics, but in classical terms, it makes total sense. I hit something really hard in an implosion, and some of it just went dong. But it was a wave, man, and so therefore we're special. Standard stuff. But, you know, describe it to them better. Ah, yes, the part of the wave, man, from blade delta. Inflate-ons! Inflatees! They're inflating! No! Trots! I don't care. I never care. It's literally, like, if I had to do a PhD thesis, I would go heavy into exacting specifics. It's never worth it. Nobody really ever cares, honestly. Like, even PhDs go, I have to get out the fucking textbook. Shut up. I have to look this up before I go talk to you about this, okay? Go fuck off. You need to do this. You're doing a presentation to all of the people. I don't give a shit about those people knowing exactly about that. Are you kidding me? They don't care either. No. This is for like an entirely different thing, right? But what you'd go with is like they're a wispy quasi-virtual. Okay, that's what you have to go with. Like they're a wispy quasi-virtual. Because they're technically there in a sense, but they're always decaying very quickly. But that decay gets absorbed by another field, typically. Okay, so if it's not it in its own right, another electron, then it usually means that that field blooms and helps reduce probability as energy that's maintained within the system to where it could ultimately possibly pop in as the positive field. So while yes, we did maintain Heisenberg's uncertainty because of course it's a, what is that? That's a thermodynamic, fluid dynamic fucking process. That's right, it's a thermodynamic fluid dynamic. The least pressure, the least resistance for it to pop up will be exactly always where it is, no matter how chaotic it is to get into it. So it's obviously very determined. Very local, very real, bitch! Suck it! I just always get so angry about this. It's not local and it's not real! Shut up! I broke your uncertainty with basic physics! Which is, you know, kind of a problem because, like, you know, I could technically get somewhere with that if I designed a good fucking experiment. It's like, it sounds good enough to really kind of test as a possible theory, an experiment, right? But it's like, I don't really want to break this, you know, as paradigm shifting genius stuff is what they'll fucking try and be like cheeky, no, you know what I mean? Standard bullshit, but it's like, let me rage bait paradigm shifting techniques here to destroy all of quantum standard model mechanics. Let me just get up here. Look, I destroyed it with no trouble at all. Just one trick all physicists hate. Just fucking measure perfectly without introducing any energy or taking it out. Or disturbing it somehow. To perfectly know exactly where it is that it's going to pop in. Otherwise known as, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do exactly the opposite of that. I will force the very, very correct in this specific, it's not specific field array and arrangement and, you know, all the things. Shut up. Okay, give me a second. Okay, shut up. Okay, there's a way to do this. I need to make a Bose-Einstein of fucking fields. Shut up. You don't understand. It's very hard over here. Don't look over there. Don't look. No, you're not allowed. Get the fuck out of here. Ah! There's a pie hole right there. Just, just hanging it. It tries its best to fucking stop ads. It doesn't completely. It's kind of annoying. I'm mostly just hoping that it does stop a lot of the tracking and that kind of thing. But, like, there's that. I did a damn amount of work over a long period of time to save up a very small amount of money for that. And it cost me a large amount of effort and condemnation for myself, as I thought I had done the worst thing in the world to myself and bought something stupid as fuck. Turns out my SD card was shit. It was an old one, but it wasn't like tremendously old, right? Except it was. It was, I bought this, well, no, my mom bought this, a Samsung A51, right? And I guess hers or something came with this fucking old ass, like, SD card, right? Slow SD card that does not like writing or reading ever quickly at all. And in fact, had already, I guess, broken once because my reader on my cell phone decided to die for some reason. And now I suspect it wasn't the reader. Now I suspect it was the card. I had to reformat everything, and I got it back and all that, but because it was encrypted, right? As a backup on my phone, standard privacy practice stuff. But, like, it was like, yeah, it's probably just, a random glitch. I don't know. It could have been anything, really. It's probably that damn SD card. That was like a year ago or some shit. Like, for what it's worth. Anyways, ended up buying an actually decent 64 gigabyte SanDisk. It's really fast writes, really fast reads. Only 80 reads, but the writes are really fast. But it wouldn't matter. Point is, like, that literally turned it from, I'm waiting 8 minutes for this fucker to do something when I click on the web page thing, right? After I got the admin, and it's like, and fucking do. Just gonna go fucking make some food and wait, I guess. Oh, it's finally done. I ate some of my food. Not even a joke, that's how I measured it. I was like, wow, that's really fucking slow and bad. No, it's something else. I got a bad pie hole. It wasn't the SD card. It's something, somehow I programmed it totally wrong. Somehow I did everything wrong. It was never the SD card. I didn't want to fucking boot anymore. SD card. It reads in my fucking card reader. I don't see what the problem is. I'm going to try and make it work, and it's not working, and plug in a whole bunch of other plugs. Still not reading. The pie hole, by the way, is considered a big old black hole sinkhole to all ads kind of a thing. Turns out, the information was bad. Turns out the card is bad. Turns out the card is slow as fuck. It doesn't work with this resonance garbage bullshit. Turns out you can't just have a storage of information in space and time not propagate and then ultimately have to have an endpoint and come back and lose a fuck ton of its energy and information that isn't conserved. You get it? And it would still have to tunnel through all of that stuff anyways, which in any case, shape or form that you want to go along with that's just happening, okay, yeah, it still has to tunnel to the very hole itself. You get it? The pie hole. It still has to go to that kind of thing, right? Okay, so even if it does do that, that's only making the pie hole more efficient. I got a better information storage system in the pie hole itself, and it worked it's super fast. Oh boy, is it ever. Really got a lot faster, actually. Turns out it worked way better. Worth the money, let me tell you. Kind of. It doesn't block all the ads. That's something that annoys me right now. It's pretty much annoying in that sense. It's like, well, you're supposed to block all the ads. You're not blocking all that. In fact, if anything, I'm getting even worse ads on YouTube. What the fuck is this? So that's a thing, But otherwise, hey, some privacy protection, anti-tracking stuff, I'll take it. When I do go on certain things, actually, I don't have ads and the page loads well. And For fucking once, I can read like newspaper articles or news articles, really. Paper. Oh, that's how dating myself here. That's how old I am. This guy right here, you know, old. But point is, it works. Turns out information has to be stored somehow on the device itself, no matter how much you send information to it. You get it? No matter what, that space-time curvature information has to exist somehow and come out of what was in there. You get it? You fucker. So no, it obviously is coming out. You just can't fucking tell why, because you've always described it as the very definition of it. Nothing can come out. But the answer is obviously we're wrong. We're wrong somehow. Tunneling is occurring somehow, some way, and other shit's going on. Which is the whole point. Which now means it's traveling technicality-wise faster than light. This one trick physics don't like. Otherwise known as physicists don't like to fucking agree with. You know, that problem. The debatey problem. And, oh, my uncertainty is gone. Yes, well, you know, but can you predict those things? And it's like, well, technically enough, yeah. You could. Not theoretically, although right now it's theoretical. But, like, you would be able to. There's nothing that stops that. Of course, you do have to input that information, which is why I described in my last video that system that sets up that information and that energy going back into the system. Right? That electron gets deposited back into an orbit, but it's a different electron. And that other electron got moved. You get what I'm saying? And that was for my transistors. But that's pretty obvious because it's like, well, that removes that information loss. You get it? But that means you can also use that for measurements, for how fast it's actually traveling. Now, if a given distance, because it's supposed to tunnel that amount of distance, is traveled that's further than light could travel in that given distance, and it's detected that much faster, then we've beaten light. You get it? But in so doing, I've maintained the overall energy value of the original system and the system surrounding for the energy barrier. Which means conservation of energy has occurred. It's just a very controlled environment, much like a teleportation environment, except not that controlled and not that teleportating, as I am superpositioning it temporarily, which isn't really a superposition, but, you know, that's technicality-wise it's in a quasi point of where it could release and convert that negative charge as a collapse back into, as it decays into its orbit again in around the nucleus of an atom, creating a directionality to that collapse, which then bounces and creates photons, you know, as a consistent vibrational point of, you know, as it waves around in its sine wave frequency. Standard shit, as a photon tends to do, but of course that means it wouldn't really have much mass, except it'd have the informational mass equivalent of what started it, or at least that electron, okay? But, or at the very least, even more, whatever quantum foam, whatever other energy, and then also the decay and the extra energy that might have been involved and constructively interfered, blah, 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 blah. Lots of fucking things. There's a lot of things that go into that one. So, you know, I move on. But it has that information that exists there. At least it should, theoretically speaking. Which is a lot of the reasons why we end up getting into a heated-ass debate when it comes down to, like, quantum physics stuff. Right? But, you know, it's also neither here nor there. Because it's kind of hard to destroy photons in a smasher, and it would probably explain why, because it's just effectively vibrations, man. You know, space-time stuff. But aren't we all, really, technically, right? Well, no, we created space-time as a wave function. That's the thing. But, time is separate to space, for what it's worth, but then we always describe, you know, entropy as our actual space in a measurement of any given intermediate system, consistency over a given amount of measurement to measurement type of thing. Weird stuff, but that's entropy for you. Because like time is of course different, and then all we're really talking about is compression and Doppler effects of given types of information systems moving around any given medium, and how fast that sound wave, or really wave, truthfully, can travel. Standard shit. But it is, for what it's worth. But it's hard for people to usually grasp that stuff. The ripples on a pond, they get soaked up by other ripples. Think about it like that. Eventually the surface looks quite smooth to us, but it's not. You know what I mean? So, standard bullshit. The information is conserved, though, in that sense. However, that's kind of why that whole system of a black hole doesn't work that way. It disappears, the ripples. Those ripples tend to disappear. What you say? What if they made really heavy energy ripples and it was way easier than you think for it to go around? Oh, it was a superfluid ripple? What is this bullshit? Like literal perfect no friction loss energy fluid tunneling teleporting crap. Are you? Come on, man. I have to look down at you. My nose up. Yeah. Yeah. Just scratching my beard a particular way. Yeah. I don't agree, but okay. It wouldn't work. That's the thing. Even with reflectivity, which that's curvature and constructive interference of different, and then reflective and diffraction and refraction kind of stuff, which works in conjunction with coherer and laminar like effects of pressure waves, because of course gravity would more or less act more similarly to an actual wave that has some degrees of particle-like interactivity, interference, and influence on each other and other things. So, at least that's the prevailing field theory as far as I'm aware, because it wouldn't make any sense for them to think about it in a different way, at least logically. So, I would assume that that's what that is. I've never looked it up. So, there's that. But, they're like, no, gravity does not look like a fissile of suck force. Says who? Oh, this Redditor that said that that's not what that is? This Redditor's stupid. Don't trust Redditor. It was on the science, physics, subreddit thing. Yeah, well, they're stupid then, because that's exactly what that would be like. Yeah, well, they said it wasn't. You have to explain it well, but it's effectively a bunch of pressure waves as it radiates outwards. That's gravitons, but they're theoretical. Fucking neither. Technically speaking, what makes gravitational waves through space and time propagate? There's definitely something there doing that. It doesn't have to technically be a field. It doesn't have to technically be a particle, but it definitely has to be something. So, what are you going to call that? I go with it. Infotons. That's right. Informational, wispy, virtual things that propagate like a vacuum / and or pressure wave through a given medium. Infotons. I know. So weird. Why would you call them? Well, you got space fucking inflatons over here. Fucking can't call them fucking infotons. Fucking inflatons. Inflatons. I'm not allowed to have infotons. Hate it. Anyways, here's some positive wispy fucking moments of time of quanta value, meaning a little. It's there. Look at this. It's a little thing. It's a little thing. Oh, it's a positively charged. Ah! Junk. Fuck you. you do? I broke down into the energy barrier and became that, then tunneled back in. Although it was really technically just a bunch of moving waves and, birdie whir vibration wations through those given negative fields, bro. I then collapsed back into my positive form in a negative manner. Back to where it exactly was, in exactly that point, in exactly that time, in exactly that space. I was all negative, and then I was attracted to the positive, and then I was negative again. Don't get your shit involved in my You're not cool! Meanwhile, I'm just saying, the mass still stands for what it's worth. No. Granted, we are talking about like a weird breakdown because, of course, there are things that make up the subatomic particle of an electron. Those are quarks and gluons and shit. So like those also have their own version of, you guessed it, positive and negative and so on charges. But we're also talking about spin, momenta, and then you end up having to get into different pressure density of field dynamics, which is why it's a little bit more complicated than you might expect. Standard bullshit, right? But like, if you were to measure the system in an indirect manner by both taking in and taking out informational energy, which effectively means it slightly moved it like this, and then we amplified the shit out of that and we tried to calculate it as best as possible. So we turned it into analog so that way it was way faster with a bunch of fucking material around it, structured the correct way so that way it would resonant frequency that back in based upon this amount of extra energy we have around as a bunch of batteries that effectively allow for it to go back into a single point, and then we can manipulate it and then possibly predict it, as we can try and control where it might be able to pop up, so that way we can test this and ultimately use it to our advantage to make, that's right, superpositional qubits as they collapse somewhere else in an entangled-like fashion, using effectively the same kind of thing around in a little gate array somewhere else. There goes the fucking little photons. There goes all the electrostatic and electromagnetic. Pop! Oh, what do you know? It's there all along. You bitch! No! Oh, change these electrostatic. No, not electrons. No, shut up over there. You pay attention. This is the photons change. This is the electrostatic amount change. This is the electromagnetic change. It's direction, potentials, and more. You need to understand what it, and because I have them set up like this elsewhere as they change, that allowed for tunnel of this electron to ultimately go this way, that way, and other ways, which then of course gets amplified by other electrons, and those detections of those other types of photons and so on ultimately make it so that way I have triple detection of qubit collapse into this place that is now then tunneled this direction in amount of time has passed and elapsed for this distance, and therefore has been faster than the light. Of course, the information then still had to travel through everything else that at least is as fast as light, for the rest of the system. But I describe it more as it's a quasi pocket dimension that briefly is connected to all of the different possible things it could go to, right, for the entire universe. So we can detect everything in that entire universe temporarily, technically speaking. You should be able to, if you were to somehow set it up. And it was doing that. But, who wants to make quasi-superpositional, but then actually, yes, it is quite superpositional once it gets to that point. Qubits that have a clock cycle with triple fucking error detection! Yo! It sounds pretty good, I can get a lot of fucking computing done with, like, one fucking goddamn transistor. Look at how many qubits I have in a fucking faster than light goddamn resonant clock cycle frequency. No, one side to the other. I just have to keep setting them up and changing them fast enough. How fast could I do that? Well, this is gear stepping now. Attoseconds are, of course, cool, but of course you use a nanosecond to a nanosecond to a nanosecond to a nanosecond to get to a lower second, right? But of course that's the same thing that we used to use for like 1,000 frame cameras that would then be set up, in intervals in between offsets of those frames. right? And then we do it again, 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 again. Then we ended up doing the very difference for those pixel switches. Basically, we'd set it up for how it is we phase and send electrons to measure something, any potential change value for those given electron hole potentials, basically. Then we got better at it by setting it up again. We had it layered and offset, and layered and offset, layered and offset, layered and offset, layered and offset, layered and offset. Yeah, that's right. The big fucking kahuna fish thing of these phantom cameras are literally, there's just a bunch of these pixels where this is in between that one and 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 that one. And it's like, phase switch harder, bitch! Do it! Do it so much farther! Phantom harder, phantom. Meanwhile, zip. Oh. Okay, so this appears to be the limit. Seems to be the limit right now, so we're going to have to do that one. We need more photons! No, we don't. Shut up over there. We don't need more photons. But the point I'm trying to make is that's exactly what you can do with this. If you set it up in a nice structure and you happen to, you know, balance it by having it over here, I think I go all these different places. Wonderful stuff. But you know what that also detects? Any given shift, gravity-wise, that could occur. To a very incredibly, stupendously accurate degree. And move electricity, electrons, around quite quickly. Very, very faster than light. Technically, it should be any amount of distance, because that's its own version of a energy barrier. The whole universe is an energy barrier. However, it'll take a certain amount of energy from the energy barrier to move it there. Standard shit, right? Which then turns it into, I don't need a fucking wormhole's worth of goddamn energy to get over there. Fuck this bullshit. No! I'll use the universe's energy and waves and fucking vibrations, man. To get me there, dude. I'm gonna surf them. Oh, yeah. And I'll collapse and be this thing over here. It's gonna be fine, though. You want to know why it's going to be fine? Because you'll be exactingly the same thing. And in technicality-wise terms, you never did actually really do anything other than exist in two places at once. Both as the entirety of the pocket dimension universe, storage of energy, which you're not really a pocket dimension universe thing, but it kind of is. You exist sort of in that. It turns that into what you are. It's sort of a weird thing. Anyways. And then that information of all of those given values, of course, gets stored as existing to that thing. Which is why it's like, it's technically another dimension. It's not, that's why I call it a quantum tunnel dimension. Yeah, it's like a different dimension, but it's not really in that sense. But, you know, in a very real sense, it's quasi. It exists quasi-ly, you know, right? So that means it's a wispy virtual quasi thing that then collapses as it is, you know. But of course that means you have to entangle it just a little bit, right? You have to have this setup, and it's going to be the same thing, and it's not going to be just the same charge values. Of course you need a lot more than that, right? And that's the whole resonance and the analog computation of this going and setting itself up to be that, and doing it enough times, and then once it sets off, it goes and falls, right? But of course that means once that does that, that of course sends information over to there, you know, wherever that is. And then, you know, we get this wonderful effect of I'll do even more clock cycles faster than you think. Look at my super cool clock cycle qubit. It has triple error correcting, effectively. Well, detection more than anything, but should there be, effectively, this thing called, I don't know, the, you know, car behind 3 doors sort of situation going on here. I knew you'd get it. I knew you would. Statistical probability, baby. Mwah! Woo! I'm getting that car more often than not. I'm just saying. Especially when I can have it resonate back. And that's its own secondary error correcting. So if I go, oh, and then I did this, and then, oh, you know, I got that from this. And then, oh, I did this on this way in. Right. As of course I have to put the electron in, but of course that means this collapse is its version, as that information comes back, as to being its own, you guessed it, superposition that then collapsed into being this now given type of idea. So I go, oh, it could possibly be this. Well, if it was right, great. If it wasn't, we switch immediately and we go with that. And more likely from both of those to 66% kind of thing that we're about to do, we get a much higher likelihood of, oh, you guessed it, effectively 100% accuracy. It's effectively because we're very high 99. There's no such thing. But it's 99.9 repeated. 99.9 repeated percent. Or is it 100%? Because of course it has to fall back into being 100%. It can't be that, right? Or is it? Now, you're not adding to 66 percentages. Of course, we're taking this 3, and it's 33%, right? Out of 100. Okay? I've described this a couple times, and a lot of other people have too. But think of it more like this. It's a mixture of different solutions that we have to mix into the correct one. We started off at 3.3 repeated percentages, right? For any one of them. Except then we got rid of one of them. We're like, nah, womp womp. It was behind that one, and you chose this. Well, remember that one? Yeah, well, this represents the value of both of them. That means it's now actually 66%. That's right. You're at sitting pretty 33%, and this turned into 66% likely to be that. If you don't know why that works, well, I'm not going to explain that very much to you. Mostly because the value of you separating this given idea has happened. That's the superpositional drop. This has dropped out to being, this is what this is, 33%. These, we don't know. We believe that it has collapsed into being this. Then we changed it into a superposition, yet again, because guess what? This either was or was not. Well, it was not, turns out. Or it was. Depending on that, we get womp womp, you didn't get it, and then you go with this. Or womp womp, it's not there, now this is 66% and you're still at 33. You get it? Now, as a result of this 66%, which is definitely higher than your 33%, you should definitely switch every fucking single time. No matter what! Now, this happens to give you this car. Great. We see over here, all right, based upon that, and that's an analog, it collapses. We say, it's most likely this. We go, boom, it was. Oh, great. Fuck yeah, 100% we were right. Boom, we're good. It wasn't. That means these two, which by the way, it can't be this one because we checked that one, because we just did it, right? Then that means it drops out to being this one. We'll still have that one on tap, which will collapse if we were wrong about this one anyways. Which then turns it into, oh, well, we got them all, no matter what, 100% likely, no matter what, always correct. 100% error corrected 3 fucking times, but technically double those 3 times, which, doesn't sound correct, except that's why dilution mixture happens to work this way. It's almost like I basically cut out this amount of percentage of this given solution because it was tied to this amount of other solution. Think this solution's concentration, I suppose, of whatever that was, got dumped into this, and it doubled. Instead of the volume doubling, we only got the solution. Now we got the 66% kind of standard thing. And if you ever understand that, then great, you're probably pretty good at boiling shit and then putting it into something. And if you don't understand that, congrats! You're probably like the vast majority of stupid dumbass mathematicians that keep arguing this garbage fucking idea that it's still 33% and quantum physics and standard probabilistical models don't exist. You fucking dummies. Well, turns out that's fine. Now you learned. This is why it is that this always seems to work. Even if the phenomenon continues to consistently show up, and you still don't believe it, it doesn't change that that's basically what's going on. You made a superposition happen in real life, in a statistical probability model, in your regular everyday life. with only 3 little choices. Isn't that fun? You know what I mean? They still exist. They still already exist the moment you set them up. You don't need them to be in a wave function at all. Do you understand like how insanely cool that is? Right? They exist all around you. That's how our systems work. But every time I'm like, a superposition, but you said it have to be like this. Why isn't it that they don't have to be like that? Right? Meanwhile, I call mine quasi, because technicality-wise, yours is very much in no way observable, quite uncertain. I don't ever believe those things, personally. Usually, I'm a very determined person. I tend to believe the determinism of things, and I also tend to believe that things are very real and quite local. MILFs near you. They're in your area. They want to know. Yeah. Anyways, it's a stupid thing, but yet it's about to get stupider. Okay? That secondary collapse is a field as to whether or not that electron happens to be there or not. If it happens to be there, great. That means we put it there. If it isn't, great. That means we didn't put it there. That means we will forcefully know the outcome no matter what, which means we'll always get it right. We'll always be able to correct whatever that given result is, and we'll always have a clock cycle that no matter what is always correct 100% of the time. This is how I believe black holes work, Sabine Hassenfelder. This is how I believe these work. 1 almost hour later, this is how I believe your idea of quantum physics, of quantum gravity is wrong, and with the quantum thermodynamics that I happen to use. You should get better at measuring and effectively be better at understanding and conceptualizing. Poke. My paradigm shifting geniusness needs to be recognized and understood. Rage bait! Rage bait! Who's saying that? Get out of here, you. I'm not rage baiting. You're rage baiting. You over there, this non-existent thing over there. You. But it'll pop in. No worries. It's gonna happen. That non-existent thing. I love it though. Anyways, have fun. Bye. Suck my dick and balls. Like and subscribe. Comment, please.